Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we dress up our Miis in makeup and wigs. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including Super Mario Party DLC coming to the game 2.5 years after it initially launched. And then on Thursday, Kid Icarus Month continues with a discussion of Kid Icarus games that never were. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I have to get something off my chest about Columbo, and I know I've been talking about Columbo a lot.
Great.
So I hope everybody provides me just a little bit of grace while I work through my issues with this TV show.
Right.
I'm slowly making my way through it, but I have to do just like an episode at a time and then let it rest. And part of that reason is because as much as I enjoy the show, sometimes the people on it infuriate me because
they're the worst people. He's dealing with people that think they're too good to be caught for doing a crime.
Oh, Patrick, I'm sorry to tell you, the problem I'm having with this latest episode is that I was sympathizing with the criminals and I was so annoyed with Columbo. But it's okay, so the premise of Columbo, real quick, is basically you know who the killer is. You spend the first part of every episode seeing the murder happen, so you know from the get-go who it is. And so what you're watching the show is Columbo putting the pieces together and how he's going to trap these criminals, because all these murderers thinks they came up with a scheme that nobody can figure out, the perfect crime.
Right. And an important aspect of this is usually Columbo kind of comes in, seemingly knows the solution already, and is just working to whittle away the person to get them to confess on their own.
Yeah, and
it's almost never about finding evidence. Almost never.
Right. And so normally this particular episode just drove me crazy because the people the crime is committed, but then there is a coroner's inquest which rules that it was an accident, which was all part of the plan. But then these dummies, these absolute idiots, they keep engaging with Columbo. They let him on their property. They're he's like, can I just do this experiment? And they're like, go ahead, Inspector. Instead of being like, no, you absolutely cannot get off my property. Don't talk to me ever again unless you have a warrant. It drove me crazy. We were supposed to Columbo's stick-to-itiveness and the fact that he was well, the coroner's inquest said that it was an accident, but I'm going to stick with it. But I was just no, stop harassing these people.
Yeah, I mean, he does often skirt the bounds of what police officers are actually supposed to be able to do, which it's not great.
I mean, but the criminals let him. They're never don't talk to me. They're I'm not going to answer your questions. And I think part of it's because they're always pretending that they're too smart. Right? They think that they're too clever, so they're not worried about getting caught. But it's just you idiots, don't talk to him. Don't talk to Columbo.
You know who would never get caught is, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog, which leads us to the Sonic Forces borrowing program. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? You can, or at least you can try. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And give us a mailing address so I can send my copy of that game to you for you to play for as long as you want. And then you send it back. I pay for postage both ways. It's a perfect program. One wrinkle is you may accidentally get my copy of Untitled Goose Game. It's just something that happens. You want a hedgehog, you get a goose. And it's just something we all got to roll with. Look, geese happen. That's just all there is to it.
Also, listeners, it is that time of year, just like an NPR pledge drive. We are looking for your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It has sadly been a while since we have had a review on the Apple Podcast app, and we would love to get more rolling in. They help people find the show. We like reading your reviews. I can't stress this enough. People who send us emails, people who tweeted us, people who leave us 5-star reviews, it delights us to no end. We love doing this show, but we love like hearing from people, and it just makes us feel good.
Right. And we like hearing people say good things
Yeah,
about
right.
us.
Oh, yes,
Obviously.
yes, yes.
That's a very flattering thing.
Very important point.
But also, just like any kind of communication from you guys is fun. So if you ever have anything to contribute to the show, email us or tweet at us, or I guess leaving a review isn't the best place to like communicate, like start a dialogue, but it is a good place to let us know how you feel about the show. So we would appreciate some more reviews coming in. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. So I did it. I bought Pokemon Snap. And I picked it up on Friday morning. Kind of a first thing was just like, yep, I'm on board. I'm getting this. I'm gonna play Pokemon Snap. And Mark, let me tell you, it's a good time.
Nice.
I find myself delighted by this game. All the time. It is such a chill, like laid back experience. And you know, there are a few things more rewarding than like going through one of the paths and taking pictures of Pokemon, leveling up your research level so that they change their behavior the next time through. And you're like, this Pokemon that wasn't giving me the time of day last time now like wants to run and dance around in front of me, and I can take its picture, I can throw apples at it, I can play it a little song. I find myself laughing at this game a lot, Mark, a lot. There was a Pikachu, he ate an apple and then kind of danced around, and I was like, "Ooh, this is wonderful."
That sounds so nice. What was there anything in particular that like pushed you over the edge from like, I think I'll wait to like I'm gonna get it now?
No, not really. I mean, I haven't. I feel like I haven't had a like new Nintendo game experience to play in a while. And so it's just because I mean, I played the heck out of Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. But Bowser's Fury, tided me over for like a day and a half. And then I was happy to play Super Mario 3D World again, but for me that was playing that game again. Because I played the heck out of it on the Wii U. So yeah, I don't know. I think I was just like hurting for a new experience, and I know that now that we are in May, that there are a couple of like new big Nintendo experiences like rolling down the pipe here. But I don't know. This one just like felt right. And there was a period I was playing this game last night for like kind of longer than I expected to, right? Like maybe like 2 hours, 2.5 hours straight of just like Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Snap. And then I was like, oh, I should go to bed. It's late. And I took out the garbage before I went to bed, and I saw a cool bug outside, and I immediately pulled out my phone because I was like, I'm supposed to take a picture of this bug. so I'll tweet out the picture of this cool bug I saw because I was just in hardcore Pokemon Snap mode where I was like, yeah, take pictures of all the cool things you see.
That's fun. Have you been like sharing them on social media or anything when you get like a particularly good snap?
So not on social media yet. I've been sharing, like the game allows you to have a little like a small online presence where all of yours Nintendo Switch Online friends can see 6 photos that you upload specifically for other people to view, and those are all photos that you can either just like upload naked or doctor, right? So you can put stickers and filters, and like you can do all kinds of things. And then you can also like title them, which is fun. You can do lots of fun jokes with that, and then people give oh, what are they called? It's they're like smile medals or fave medals or something like that. And so I've got a I've got a photo of a surfing Raichu with sunglasses on, and the name of it is Surfs Up, Bro, and it's got a lot of medals, and I'm very proud of it. So yeah, and then like just like checking out what other people are putting up on their little online portals too is super fun, and like again just really low pressure and like cool and creative, and I'm really enjoying the game.
I like that you can pin those like 6 photos to your page. It's like the stealth return of MySpace top 8, right?
It is. It is. Well, and in addition to those 6, there are 2 that the professor picks for you to go up there. So I guess it is there is a top 8.
Perfect. Well, since we got our 3DSs out for Kid Icarus month, I decided to go ahead and give Rhythm Heaven Megamix a spin. This is the
Yeah.
3DS Rhythm Heaven game. I played the DS one when it came out probably like 10 or 11 years ago at this point. And I played the Rhythm Heaven Fever for Wii, but there hasn't been, or I guess there has been. I think Rhythm Heaven Megamix came out like 5 or 6 years ago, but I just have never played it until now.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, given the name Megamix, like I think that it is a WarioWare Gold-esque compilation of like those like rhythm mini games from the DS game and the Wii game. And actually, maybe there might be stuff from the Game Boy Advance game. I don't know if that ever came to America. If it did, I have not played it. But these games are really fun and very, very simple. It's basically like one input at a time. So a couple of the rhythm games, like they require you to hit like the A button or like a button on the D-pad, any one that you want. But for the most part, these are like one button games. And it's definitely like a budget Nintendo franchise. I actually think the game is still full price, but like the presentation and all of that is very like, it's very simple. The meat of these are like the rhythm mini games, but they're all like short. They're all like maybe 1.5 minute little things where it's like, okay, you have to punch in rhythm, or you have to like karate chop fruit, or you have to like perform in this chorus, and you're all doing it in rhythm. And so it's different how I usually play my 3DS, which is normally I'm like listening to a podcast, I'm doing something else. But this, you have to like really engage with it. You have to like have the sound on. Luckily, the music in this game, in all the games, are like really fun. But yeah, it's been interesting to go back to. If Nintendo were intent on doing more mobile games, I feel like just like WarioWare would be a good mobile game. Like this is one that would work great with the touchscreen. Just like Super Mario Run, you only need one input to basically play the entire game. How you monetize it, I'm not really sure, because like the mini games aren't big enough to have it be like, okay, I'm going to pay like $2 to unlock this 90-second mini game or whatever. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. If you've never played a Rhythm Heaven game before and you have a 3DS and you're interested, I really recommend it. These games are a lot of fun, and they're really kind of, I mean, the closest analog in Nintendo's catalog I can think of is WarioWare, but they're not really like WarioWare at all. And I don't think they're like any other game that's out there. Although now that I say that, I would love a indie game take on like Rhythm Heaven, because it doesn't seem like Nintendo's interested in making any new ones right now.
Yeah, it's so weird that both Rhythm Heaven and WarioWare got those sort of like compilations, those sort of like comprehensive compilations on 3DS, and that isn't something that we've revisited on Switch, and maybe just not yet, right? Like, there's still time in the Switch lifespan to get there, but it's like, man, come on, just like the collecting all of it together is cool, and like, it feels like that is something that we are seeing on Switch in the form of like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where it's just like collecting everything and being like, here is the biggest, most blown out version of this. But like, come on, let's get some new ones.
Yeah, especially because we know that they work on consoles, and we know that they work with multiplayer, because you had WarioWare Smooth Moves, you had Rhythm Heaven Fever. So it's not like it's like, oh, they're limited to handheld for like, because that's the ideal way to play these games. Like that's not the case at all.
Right. Well, that's cool, Mark. I'm glad that you are keeping the 3DS alive. I feel like that is something that we both like fall out of for a little bit, and then we're like, oh, wait a minute, there are a lot of games on this thing. and a lot of games that we missed.
Yeah, and it really is keeping it alive because my 3DS is at the point where I have to keep it plugged in all the time.
Oh
And
no.
so I'm wondering like, okay, do I get a new 3DS? But like the price for those things are kind of like insane now. Even a new 2DS is pretty expensive because yeah, once they went out of print, they like immediately started climbing in price. So I don't know. I might just play my 3DS until it just run it into the ground at this point.
I wonder if you could get a replacement battery for it.
Oh, I might be able to get a replacement battery. That may be the way to go because I'm not even sure what like I bought a lot of 3DS games digitally and I'm not even sure what transferring those like licenses entails anymore.
Oh yeah, good point. Uh, uh yeah, well look, I mean, this is something I want to stay on top of. Like as you either make the migration over to another 3DS this late in its lifespan or change its battery. I want to be on top of it. I want to know what's happening step by step, Mark.
Okay, I mean that requires me to actually take action on this and not just keep my 3DS plugged in anytime
Hey,
I want to play it.
if you if you want to be like Patrick, just wanted you to know, no update. I feel like that's fine.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So, from my perspective, not really anything that is coming out this week to particularly highlight, but there are a bunch of sales going on at the same time right now. So, there is an insane amount of games on sale, and some of them are really good deals.
Some of them are really good deals, and also some of them are ending pretty soon. Like either today, the day this episode comes out, or within a couple days. So if any of these sound, we're gonna try to highlight a couple. There are so many games. It seems like there's a big Square Enix one. There's a lot of these Ubisoft games are on sale. And just like a handful of other things. Mark, what on here jumped out to you as noteworthy?
The one that like I have my eye on is Rune Factory 4 Special. It's
Mhm.
$23.99, was $39.99. Rune Factory is a franchise that has always like intrigued me. It is a mix of like a dungeon crawler with like the farming elements of Harvest Moon, and it's from the developers. I guess it's Story of Seasons. It's from like the same like developers as Story of Seasons. So it has a lot of the same like elements and style to it. And I know Rune Factory 5 has been announced for Switch. It is coming sometime in the future. Rune Factory 4 Special, I think, was released like 2 years ago at this point, and something I've always kind of been interested in checking out. I love farm simulators. I like RPGs. So like mixing the two together seems like it'd be right up my alley.
Yeah. And that's a good like healthy chunk off of that too, like to really bring the price down to a reasonable range. Um, in that same sort of idea, the Catherine Full Body Catherine Full Body is on this list as well. It's $24.99. Normally goes for $50. So it's like at half price, and that was a game that I was excited about when it came out. But I was like, yeah, I can't really justify spending $50 on a game that I did play like 12 years ago. Um, but at 25, like that's right in line for me. Also, I've been talking about the Blizzard Arcade Collection. I've been playing Lost Vikings and Lost Vikings 2 on it. It is now a collection of 5 games. Was originally a collection of 3 games. And it is $17. It normally goes for 20. So that's sort of just like it's a minorly better deal. Is always a great deal. Blossom Tales: The Sleeping King, which is a Zelda-like game that we shouted out a long time ago when it originally came out, is $6. It normally goes for 15. But $6, it's barely like spending money. All the Final Fantasy games are at like half price right now. Hypnospace Outlaw, which you were talking about the other week, Mark, is also half off, $10 instead of 20. There are some like weirdly new games on here that have like 30% discounts. Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory is $40.19. It's normally a $60 game. That Balan Wonderworld is the same deal. Not that anyone would recommend playing that, but like it just like there are some like really deep discounts here.
Yeah, Rayman Legends Definitive Edition is $10 instead of the normal 40. This is a game that I'm pretty sure friend of the show and previous guest Greg Smith likes a
Yep.
lot, and so shouting that one out for Greg.
Yeah, I mean, all of the Ubisoft games are marked down to like $15. That includes Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is amazing. Which also includes Star. What's the name of this game? Starlink Battle for Atlas. Which yeah, $15 is probably the right amount of money to pay for that. The Star Wars games are all like half price. So and the Wonderful 101 is $27.19, which is normally it's like $13 off its normal price. So, again, just like if you're looking for some deep discounts they are out there, all of the Picross games are also about 20% off right now. So, except for the new one, Picross S6 is still full price, but the rest of them are all a little bit cheaper than they usually are. All right. Anything else you want to shout out there, Mark, or did we do a very good job?
I think not to pat ourselves on the back too hard. I think we did a very good job.
All right, great. Mark, let's get out of the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today is, of course, May 4th. May the 4th. It is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. May the Force be with you. Which way are we supposed to say it? I don't even know. But our topic, we are going to be reviewing The Mandalorian. This is a request from Lizzie for our 433 episode, however long ago that was. So yeah, Mark, The Mandalorian, how do you feel about it?
I enjoy The Mandalorian. I like The Mandalorian. I think like I don't really have any expectations each week that The Mandalorian is going to be good. And so I kind of enjoy it on those terms. Like I think my favorite episode of that show is still from season 1, and it's like the second episode when when the Mandalorian is like chasing down the Jawas in their little like Jawa tank. Like that's like that's like the silliest, most fun that I've had with that show. I thought the second season was fun, but I'm weirdly like not super into like the heavy story elements, like the canon aspect of all of it. Like I don't dislike it; it just doesn't really mean anything to me.
Yeah, well, I that's one of the things that I find very interesting about it, and I don't know that it's a positive or a negative, but like that it does engage so much with like the extended Star Wars universe canon, like that Timothy Oliphant character, Cab Vanth, is that his name? That may be someone else. That might be someone else.
I think it's
Cobb,
but
Cobb
I think
Vanth?
you're right. I think you're right. I think that is his character.
But like, yeah, but that is like a character in some of Star Wars novels. And obviously this last year that they introduced Ahsoka Tano, and they name check Grand Admiral Thrawn. So they're like connecting it to Clone Wars and Rebel stuff, which I feel good about because I just watched. But also like I I get those being the more intimidating parts of the Star Wars canon. And so like to some extent I wish it could just be itself and just tell its own story. But like, I don't know. I also do get excited when they're like, okay, there's some like Emperor clone stuff happening here. Like, are we going to start rehabilitating Rise of Skywalker in this? And then like, I mean, is it fair to spoil the end of season 2, or should I not say what I was about to say?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Season
guess
2?
like major spoilers for what we're about to say. So maybe jump ahead.
No. I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, you're not going to.
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay.
But like, it's an exciting moment. But like, is that story actually served by it? I don't know.
Yeah. For whatever reason, like we clearly talk about Star Wars a ton on the show. I'm very like I'm passionate about the movies, and the stakes feel high for a movie. The stakes for The Mandalorian emotionally for me, like the stakes for The Mandalorian for me feel very low, where it's like when it turned out to be fun, that was a great surprise, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. But when it's bad, and I think occasionally it is like not very good, um that's okay too. Like I like
Yeah.
it feels very disposable in a totally like healthy way to me, where it's like, okay, yeah, like I tune in, it's like 40 minutes, and there's always something in there that I think is like fun or cool. But when it doesn't all come together, that's okay too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and this may just be a me thing, but like where Star Wars is concerned, I feel like I've always got my prequel armor, right? Like I
Right.
always have the like immunity that I built up from seeing episodes 1, 2, and 3 in the theater, excited as a kid. I saw Phantom Menace in the theater 9 times. Like uh that Star Wars I was gonna say can't disappoint me, but I was pretty disappointed by Rise of Skywalker. But I think by and large, like I've built up the tolerance to it, so that when the show isn't firing on all cylinders, that I'm just like, okay, that's fine. It was just an off Star Wars, and maybe I'll enjoy the next one.
Yeah, and like it's just difficult for me to like not like a show that has Amy Sedaris sitting at a table with a giant ant.
Yeah,
It's called like Dr. Mandible or something. Like that is
yeah.
exactly what I want out of this TV show, and I am tickled how often they deliver that.
Also, let's not undersell like the main like feature of the show. Like Baby Yoda's cute. I
Oh
like
yeah,
him.
yeah.
Like I it's he's one of those things that like feels like it should be easy to make fun of people liking Baby Yoda, cuz like it's so universal, but because it is in fact so like everyone's right.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Like
Yeah.
we are right to lose our minds over a Baby Yoda. It is that cute.
I regret to inform anybody who didn't know, which I did not, in that there are corners of the internet where Baby Yoda has been turned into like uh minions, where he is fodder for like really like depressing memes about like not liking your wife and stuff like that. But even Baby Yoda persists, right? He's great.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. We were accompanied today by the GVSU New Music Ensemble. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Last week, out of nowhere, with zero warning, Super Mario Party received a free update enabling multiple online modes, including bringing the main 4-player board game mode online. Now, there was like a version of online with this game initially, but the main mode, the thing that you play Mario Party 4, was not online.
Yeah, you could do like a couple different mini games online. There was like a mini game gallery that took the like I don't know less than a dozen games that you could play online, and like just sort of gave a little suite for that. But I mean, yeah, it's non-functional to the point of I never even attempted it. I've never talked to someone who has.
Yeah. And so uh and by non-functional, do you also mean like I've heard that like the online play itself was like choppy and bad.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
So with this update, Patrick was saying that there is a handful of games that you could previously take online. This adds 70 plus mini games that previously you could only play locally are now available online. Again, the main 4-player board game mode is online. There's also a 2 versus 2 online mode, which is the same board game but with teams. I have seen the timing of this is super weird, right? Because the game was released in
The
October of
weirdest.
2018. We haven't heard boo since. And this is like the first time the game was updated. But I've seen speculation, and it kind of makes sense that Nintendo, they updated their online backend. They're using a whole new like
Mhm.
server system for online games. And I wonder if that's what they were holding off for, cuz I haven't seen anything about this update from people saying that like it plays super smoothly or anything, but I haven't seen a lot of complaints about it being unplayable.
Yeah, so with Monster Hunter Rise was the first like big Nintendo title to be using the new on online servers or the new online server protocol or whatever. So yeah, it could be that they were migrating it over to that they were migrating Mario Party over to this as well, which is what allowed them to put so many more games online. Which like so in that way the timing does make sense, but in another way, just as in the states we're like opening up from the pandemic and like starting to go over to people's houses again, um it is like precisely 14 months too late. Right, like this would have been a killer update in April or May of 2020.
Yeah, totally. I also, but Super Mario Party, even though it came out in October of 2018, continues to sell like consistently
Yeah.
well. And so I think there are a lot of people who are picking it up for the first time who like will never know a time where you couldn't play this
It's
game
true.
online. Um, but yeah, so like it's cool to like see this happen. I was genuinely shocked just because it feels like the time would be right for like a Super Mario Party 2 or whatever is next for Mario Party to come out this fall. But the fact that they updated this with online makes me feel like that we shouldn't necessarily be expecting another Mario Party game for Switch anytime soon.
Yeah, well, and it's also just another chapter in the like you can never predict what Nintendo is going to do, how they're going to support something 3 years after its initial launch with like, a game-changing new feature. Like it's just there's just no telling. And I think there's also just a like I wonder if part of it is just that the success that Switch saw last year, with like Animal Crossing and like being sold out of units all year long, and all that has Mario Party a uh is a big seller style game. Everyone can engage in Mario Party in the same way that everyone can engage in Mario Kart. And I wonder if they're just like, we have enough of these machines, let's just make the game good enough to like give it another push to like really get it out there for the more casual audience that have come in with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nintendo has also released a demo for Miitopia. This is the Switch release of the 3DS game that came out in 2016. Couple of things like you can download the demo, the progress will carry over to the main game. But to me, the like coolest thing to see coming out of this was all of the Miis that people were making for
Yeah.
this game because that's one of the things that Patrick, you and I, when this was announced, we talked a lot about how the Miis were such an integral part of the Nintendo 3DS, and so you had a lot of Miis on that system. But I don't have very many Miis on my Switch outside of maybe like two or three that I have for Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, and so but I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a problem because there are people who have really taken to this Mii Maker because it's probably the most customizable Mii Maker ever. And so the stuff that people have been putting up online, and you can share codes, so you can follow somebody and you can see all of the Miis that they're making, and you can add those Miis to your game. So it seems like by the time this game comes out, there are going to be ways for people to add lots of cool Miis to their game from the get-go. And that's what makes Miitopia like unique and special is Miis are playing the main characters in the game. So you're determining like who the bad guy is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think the thing that's super clutch about that is like the meme maker, with its it's mostly in the makeup and wigs that like allow you to customize them beyond the sort of like regular me appearances. That's all available in this demo, which means that's always going to be free to anyone who owns a Switch, right? So like there is no anyone who owns a Switch can make a cool me and then like share the code for it on whatever social media and like be a part of it. It means that like whenever you think about like user generated content for games, like part of the problem is that like not enough people are like putting time into like assets you really want to use. And this addresses that problem in two ways. One is that it actually doesn't take that long to make a me, right? So like the generated content generates fast, and everyone can do it. I'm not saying that this like turns Miitopia into like a game that I'm like genuinely interested in playing. I still think it's ridiculous that they're releasing it for $50, a 3DS game. But it does address the concern that we voiced the other week of like people don't have Mii's. We don't have relationships with Mii's anymore. Like I think we're about to again.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, Patrick, where like I'm not really excited for Miitopia. I think it's cute. Like the idea of Miitopia is really fun, where it's like an RPG played like where all the characters are like your friends or Mii's that you've picked up from wherever. Um, and when I played the demo on the Nintendo 3DS, I thought it was really cute. I've seen cutscenes from later in the game where you're like, that's a really funny use of Mii's. But for whatever reason, just like as a game, it doesn't appeal to me. But uh, if you are interested, you don't have to wait that long. The game comes out on May 21st, like Patrick said, for $49.99.
Yeah, which again, like you can still get the 3DS version right now on your 3DS for $40. So I don't know.
A few months ago, Master Chief from the Halo franchise and Kratos from God of War were featured character skins in Fortnite. And at the time, like they were rolled out, it was like Master Chief was coming and now Kratos is next. And we were all kind of like, okay, like, is Nintendo going to be next? Because it seems like that's where we're leading. Nothing
Yeah.
ever materialized. There was no Nintendo character, but at the time we were speculating, one, whether Nintendo would actually commit to something like this, and two, what Nintendo character would be suitable to appear in the game. Not a ton of like gun-toting Nintendo characters that you could really put in there. But as part of the ongoing Epic and Apple lawsuit, previously confidential documents are becoming public. And one of the documents that was released is a Fortnite quarterly business review from June 2020. And in a section of this presentation that's around IP collaborations, there are full-page images of Master Chief, Kratos, and Samus Aran. So clearly it was either a pitch to Nintendo, they were having discussions. It's not something that that ever got released, or at least hasn't been so far. I think there are other like skins and items in that document that haven't seen the light of day yet, but are presumed to be coming. But it seems like this moment is kind of past. We had Microsoft, we had Sony. But I think when we were talking about potential Nintendo characters, you brought up Samus, Patrick, so congratulations.
Right. I mean, we can just put this on the board with the Game & Watch prediction from the middle of last year. I knew that bad boy was coming out. Yeah, well, I mean, did we land on any other like really viable, like maybe the Star Fox crew could be in there, but like who really cares about that?
Yeah, no, that is like the other one I can think of. I mean, I guess what Donkey Kong had like some sort of like banana blaster.
Sure. Yeah, and it's a coconut gun, I believe. It can fire in spurts, and if he shoots you, it's gonna hurt.
But no, like really, I can't. I mean, the main character from Geist, I don't know what his name is.
Obviously, James Bond 007, of course.
But yeah, it always seemed like an interesting fit. But having Samus running around in there, because I think the skins are limited time. Like I think you can only use them during that like season or whatever is happening, and so it would have been cool. I will say that, like it does take me back to the Soul Calibur 2 days. It would have been cool to see like representation from all the big three in Fortnite at some point.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of it's just like, Fortnite is so there are characters from everything in Fortnite, right? And it's just like, well, why not a Nintendo guy in there?
Yeah,
let's get one Nintendo person in there.
Konami has revealed that they won't be attending E3 this year, but that they're deep in development on a number of projects. And this is notable to me because after basically getting out of console video games a few years ago, like famously just being like, nope, we're, like not doing this anymore. Konami has like kind of walked that back and has become more active in mining their library. Like we saw the Castlevania collection, we saw Getsu Fumaden Undying Moon at the latest Indie World Showcase. So it seems like they're maybe doing what Sega has done with some of their franchises, where they're partnering with like third-party developers to like bring them back. And I know there were rumors of like a Silent Hill game that was a Sony exclusive that we haven't seen, but like that was the rumor going around for a while. And I'm always interested in somebody revisiting Castlevania. So I am curious to know what they're working on. Probably something Metal Gear related, actually, now that I'm saying all this out loud, because that's probably their most lucrative franchise at this point. But
Oof. I mean, I don't know though, because the expectations on a Metal Gear game are always huge, right? Like they're not, and the longtime like director and producer of those games, Hideo Kojima is not with Konami anymore. He's got his own studio right now. But like those games aren't cheap to make, right? They are like famously belabored projects, and they sell super well. But like I gotta wonder, like that feels like it was one of the nails in the coffin for Konami when they were first like, all right, I don't know that we make games anymore. Was that the experience with Metal Gear Solid 5 was such so long, and like the game that they put out isn't Kojima's complete vision up for the game. So like I could see where there would still be some like hesitancy about trying to move forward with Metal Gear unless it's like a remake of some kind.
yeah, that might be true. I just really feel like after the success of Sonic Mania and
Yeah.
like the success that Sega's had also with like Streets of Rage 4 and things like that, that feels like such a viable option to me that I don't know if I was Konami, I would absolutely, find an indie developer who I guess actually you're kind of seeing it, although it's not sanctioned, it doesn't have anything to do with Konami, but with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game that is coming out. Um, but like you just finding that indie development
Yeah.
team who like loves the property and will like wants to do right by it. And I feel like that's what you need from Castlevania is somebody who just like wants to make one of those games again. I guess that isn't uh Iga, whatever his name is, the one who made like
Yeah,
Bloodstained.
Igarashi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is so interesting too because like there's a huge library of games that like are sort of languishing under Konami's rule, right? Like they did release that Castlevania collection that we talked about on this show, which is like 8 or 9 Castlevania games that are all from the 8 and 16-bit eras. And also 2 Game Boy games, which are virtually unplayable. Three Game Boy games, because Kid Dracula is on there as well. But like they have this like sort of parallel history with the Castlevania games that like fit the Metroidvania mold, right? Like for which the genre is named. There's a whole series of them on the Game Boy Advance. There's some DS games. And like there are Symphony of the Night was recently re-released on like PlayStation and Xbox, I think. But like there are so many of these games that are just sort of like sitting around and like could stand to be released in some format. Like there is virtually no way to play Metal Gear Solid 4 right now on anything except an old PlayStation 3. Like that is literally it.
That's so wild.
Isn't it weird? And so like a lot of those games could just stand to be polished up and like pushed back out on new platforms. But it's just because Konami has been like taking more of a back seat in the last like 5 years or so. It's just there. It's just a library that's just locked away.
Yeah, it's kind of honestly, it's surprising to me in a way that like Konami hasn't been absorbed, like the way that like Hudson was absorbed by Square Enix. Is that right? Am I getting that right? But anyways, like I feel like a lot of those smaller like mid-tier Japanese developers have been absorbed by other entities, and it's kind of a surprise to me that Konami has stayed independent. I'm glad that they've stayed independent, just because I don't think we need more consolidation in the video game industry. But I'm they have such storied franchises that it's weird to me that they just walked away for a while, and so I'm excited to see what they are working on and what like their big plans are coming back.
this is probably short-sighted on my part, but do you think that any of that has to do with, because like their sort of main business is like experiential like parlors and stuff, right? And like pachinko machines and stuff like that. All of these sort of like destination things that like were probably closed during the coronavirus and like states of emergency as Japan has declared them. Like I wonder if that has sort of made them realize that like they're not diverse enough in the ways that they're bringing in money right now, and that they need to get back into the console gaming market.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That could have contributed to it for sure. Fast Company published a feature on Nintendo that included quotes from Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa and Nintendo of America President Doug Bowser. The whole thing is worth reading, so we'll link to it in the show notes. You should definitely check it out. But here's some highlights. Nintendo has been on a mission in recent years to deploy characters outside of video games. We see new merchandise partnerships with people like Lego, Uniqlo, Puma. There's the theme park lands coming online, and this upcoming Mario animated film that like looms in the distance like a meteorite. I'm terrified of what this thing turns out to be. But it's important to note that like their Nintendo's focus is still on games. Furukawa says specifically, quote, "Our objective has always remained the same," he says, "to connect and entertain more consumers with Nintendo IP in the hopes that they may become interested in the world of our dedicated video game experiences. By doing this, our goal is to create a connection that transcends a particular game, platform, or console generation."
And I gotta say that is a bit of a relief, right? Just like as a longtime Nintendo fan who found their IP through games, that like, I mean, I guess I can understand a world where like I'm interacting with Mario not primarily through games, but I don't like it. It's I want to. I'm happy to be assured that they're always going to be focusing on how to make those game experiences the like primary way that you interact with these franchises.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting like shift in strategy because on the one hand, it seems like subtle, but the ramifications of shifting are huge. Like it's like okay, like introducing somebody to Mario through the animated Mario movie, and then creating that virtuous cycle where okay, because they like the movie, fingers crossed. Oh, please God, be good. Then,
Oh my God, please.
then they will, like okay, seek it out on like a mobile phone or seek it out. I guess really what they're looking for is through like the Switch, or whatever Nintendo's current console is. Uh,
Yeah, I do think it's interesting too that they're not. I mean, I guess there's like an interactive, like sort of game element to the Lego Mario stuff, even though I don't really think that that's. I think it's just interactive. I don't really think there's a true game component there. That there aren't like it seems like there could be a market for um like Zelda tabletop games or like a Metroid tabletop game or RPGs for like any of the Nintendo franchises. And it's interesting that that is not really a part of this that they're really exploring. And like even in the way of, I mean, I guess there's always like manga and stuff, but like that we haven't seen like other like graphic novels or like comics from like big publishers. There was the talk of the Arms graphic novel coming out of Dark Horse, but that got canceled. It's just it's interesting to see Nintendo being like, we're expanding our IP into all these other places, and you're like, okay, you're not going to any of the places where like everyone else goes. You're just like making a movie and like putting some shoes out.
yeah, yeah. Like I guess on anything that uh take somebody's time, I guess,
Yeah.
is in theory competing with Nintendo. But like I feel like a movie and like clothing and like that kind of stuff doesn't compete in like the most direct way as if they were like I feel like tabletop like RP like games like that feels like the closest thing that's like a direct competitor where it's like you can spend your time gaming doing this or you can spend your time gaming on like a console.
Right.
But yeah, like
But it seemingly didn't hurt Pokemon at all.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like
that's a great point.
the
That's a
Pokemon
really good
card game
point.
is huge.
Yeah. But I also wonder if like they will eventually get there, right?
Yeah.
Because in this Furukawa talks about like Shigeru Miyamoto is being very, very hands-on with the animated film, and he talks about how like while they're trying to go through this like IP expansion, they are not doing it at the sacrifice of the video game development. And the way that they're doing that is they have people they just have very few people working on these outside projects. And so I wonder if it's just like opportunity cost, right? Like they are focused on these like things that are right in front of them, and eventually they have
Yeah.
plans to even get further, but there is just not enough people for them to like do all of these things at once.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Furukawa also discusses how Nintendo it doesn't plot its future like specifically around VR or augmented reality or whatever like the new up and coming technology is. He says that the way that they're always interested in new technology, but that the way they approach it is they're looking for things that can provide new, never before seen experiences.
I guess that's interesting. It's I wonder if like VR and AR at this point. I mean, there's still those are still spaces that are so like bleeding edge, and so like the technology required for them to work well is like works against like it needs to be such a powerful machine in order to do something that even like approaches acceptable. And like Nintendo's never going to be on the cutting edge of that in the way that like PlayStation or Microsoft could be. So like it's just not the cost benefit analysis just isn't there for them.
Yeah, I mean, we've I feel like AR is the one that is like right there, and the way they've been using it is always kind of as like side projects, right? You had Mario Kart. I'm blanking on what that AR
Tour home circuit.
home circuit. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that was developed
Yeah,
by like
Tour's
an
now, right?
outside. But I think you're right. Mario Kart, like
Yeah.
live circuit, something like that. But
There it is, live home circuit.
but that was developed by like a third party, and you have Niantic who has Pokemon Go, and they just
Mhm.
recently announced that they're doing a Pikmin game. So I feel like AR is the one that Nintendo has dabbled with most in like an adjacent sort of way. I've
And
talked.
everything on the 3DS too. Like there was
Oh,
a ton
sure,
of AR
yeah.
functionality with that. All, sort of like on the periphery and like never the main focus of anything, but like they were putting out software with AR functionality for years.
Yeah. And then, like I've talked ad nauseum on this show about how VR is such a weird technology, because I feel like we've been told for multiple years now that like it's right on the knife's edge and about to tip over into being mainstream. And we've just never seen that happen. So I'm not saying that like that nut will never be cracked, but I'm just like skeptical of what that looks like. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like, and so it makes sense to me, I guess. Basically, what I'm saying is that Nintendo isn't really hitching its wagon to VR or AR. They're just kind of like dabbling, but they, I guess they don't really hitch their wagon to anything necessarily. They're just kind of like looking to see what's out there all the time.
Yeah. Also, we've talked about this a couple times, but like Nintendo is in such an interesting space right now where you're like, I can't see them making a deviation from what they're currently doing, right? Like they don't have the backup of like the second pillar of consoles that they're selling right now. Like they're really just doing the Switch, and like to take a big chance and not have something else there to like prop everything up. Um, I mean, it's the Nintendo's future is always impossible to predict, but it feels extra impossible now.
Totally. I mean, I guess, like just the way that the Game Boy was the pillar that Nintendo had, that like then they could be like the Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo DS is a third pillar, even though that turned out not to
Yeah.
be the case when the DS took off. The Switch could be that solid foundation where they're like, okay, we have the Switch 2,
True.
and then we're like revealing something that's totally out there and crazy, and then if it doesn't catch on, we still have like the Switch as our concrete base that we feel good about.
Yeah, I mean, it is outrageous that like the 3DS, which was announced as like their third pillar, as like this special weird deviation, ended up being one of the highest selling Nintendo pieces of Nintendo hardware and just hardware in general. Like became this mega success that then is like the point around which all the other Nintendo experiments like got to like sprout from.
Yeah, I mean the Game Boy had just as many like iterations, or I guess console generations, as like the DS did. Both turned,
Yeah.
like the Game Boy turned out to be the evolutionary dead end in that way.
Yeah, weird. So weird.
And then finally, Dr. Petey Piranha is now seeing patients in Dr. Mario World, which means it's time for us to update our definitive rankings of all the Dr. Mario World practitioners. So let's boot up the spreadsheet.
Booting up the old spreadsheet, as a reminder, there are, of course, 41 doctors in Dr. Mario World. Towards the bottom of the list, we've got Dr. Kamek at number 41. Dr. Koopa Troopa, the fire doctors are all like part of that. And then kind of the crappy Koopa Kid doctors are all in like our bottom from ranks 32 to 41. And then the top of the list, top three, of course, are Dr. Daisy is number 1, Dr. 2 is Dr. Donkey Kong, and of course, number 3 is Dr. Baby Wario. Mark, I guess we can get into more granular detail if we need to, but how are you feeling about Dr. Petey Piranha as a doctor?
The thing I like about him is he has arms. I think that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. So he has arms, but I think it's time for us to discuss what is he wearing a swimming suit or is this a diaper? What is going on with Petey Piranha?
I fear that it is a diaper because I think Petey Piranha is supposed to be a baby.
Okay. And that jives with my conception of, and maybe I'm probably conflating it with the baby like fire flower or piranha dinosaur thing in Mario Galaxy. So maybe that's slightly on me. But I also think Petey Piranha is a baby, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to rank him among the babies. Does that feel true to you?
Yeah, where do we have those guys? Oh yes. Okay, so they're in our like D tier. We gave every character a letter grade.
Yeah. So at number 30 is Dr. Baby Rosalina, 29 is Dr. Baby Peach, 28 is Dr. Baby Luigi, and 27 is Dr. Baby Mario. There are some other babies that ranked a little bit higher, but that's, a conversation for another time.
So for me, my vote is above Dr. Baby Mario, but below Dr. Toad. I like Petey Piranha more than any of the other babies because I think I would just feel sad and undignified if I went to see a baby that had a pacifier in its mouth as my doctor. Whereas Petey Piranha might be a baby, but he's a big baby. He's like Jack in that Robin Williams movie that nobody likes.
Sure. I mean, you are correct in identifying that as such, as a Robin Williams movie that nobody likes. I think that's probably good. I think number 27th, after Toad, after Dr. Toad, sorry, makes a lot of sense. I do just want to bring up one thing. He's a plant, right? Does it bother you that you would be seeing a doctor who is literally a plant?
If he's done all of the training that he feels comfortable with human physiology, like, who am I to disagree with the Mushroom Kingdom board?
All right. Then I think we have an answer there, and it means that Dr. Petey Piranha is coming in at number 27. Just a slightly better doctor than Dr. Baby Mario, and a slightly worse doctor than Dr. Toad. This is an ungainly list here now, Mark.
It is a little out of control.
Yeah, it's look, I'm pleased that our top 5 can we just go through the top 5 one more time because I love them so much. Number 5 is Dr. Goomba Tower, which is of course 3 Goombas in a trench coat. Or like a lab coat, I guess. Number 4 is Dr. Lakitu, and I don't remember why he's ranked so high, but it makes sense to me. Number 3 is of course Dr. Baby Wario, just because it is a confluence of terms that no one can understand. He's a series of contradictions, too powerful to deny. And then Dr. Donkey Kong, because you know that's a doctor who's going to fight for you, is number 2. And the undisputed best doctor in Dr. Mario World is Dr. Daisy. I don't think that needs to be explained. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. For real, those reviews are great, and we're really hoping to get some new 5-star reviews in there. So please do that if you haven't yet, and we appreciate you taking the time to do so. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you share stuff. On Twitter, I am at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. You can follow us there. Check out the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying Box Boy for Fortnite. And thank you for listening.
Hey, Oscar, Rachel, do you like Disney movies?
Yeah!
Have you seen all of them?
Yeah, we saw all the Disney animated movies.
And we saw all the Pixar animated movies, too.
How about the DComs?
What?
The Disney Channel original movies. You should listen to our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault, because we are watching all of them in chronological order.
Yeah, and we do fun segments, like we cast each other.
That's right, and my favorite segment, Zaddy Watch, where we rank every single DCOM daddy.
Ooh, you can listen to all this fun stuff on our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media, wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, guys, let's get back in the vault. It's cold out here.
Campfire.